Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar on the IHI Call 7, Topic 3, on clinical validation of biomarkers for diagnosis, monitoring, disease progression, and treatment response. My name is Nassima, and I'm going to be your moderator today. Before we start, I just want to give you some information. So we are recording this webinar and it will be published on our IHI website and on the B2Match platform. We will also publish the presentation slides. Also, important information, the call will be officially launched next week and all the links and details of how to apply will be published on the IHI website and the Funding and Funders portal. Today, I have with me in the room Elisabetta Bodano, who is Principal Scientific Manager for this topic. And I also have my colleagues Carolina from the legal team. An important things for you to know, if you have any question, you are welcome to send them via the chat panel. You can send them and we will get them at the end of the presentation. So now I will hand over to Elisabetta for the presentation.
I can't do anything. And I can't make myself.
Just a second, sorry.
Okay.
Just a second, we are having some technical issues.
I don't know, can you hear me?
Sound is getting.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar, which I will be the one that will be carrying you through. And just to start, first of all, what will be covered by this webinar? So we will be having a presentation today and an introduction to the IHI program, then followed by a short presentation on the main point of this topic. Please remember that you should, in any case, always refer to the topic text, which is already available on the IHI website. What we will cover in any case today, we will talk about what is the challenge, the need for the public-private collaborative research for addressing the challenge of this topic, and then briefly we will go through the scope of the topic and the expected outcome and impact, and also some the budget. We will then go through what is the process for the proposal submission, the evaluation, and we will give you some tips for the preparation of a proposal that could be hopefully successful. We will not talk about rule and procedure or how to prepare the financial proposal. We have a dedicated webinar for this part, and I strongly recommend that you also attend this webinar because they are really, really useful for you to understand. So first of all, you are now attending a webinar for a topic that is launched under the Innovative Health Initiative. The Innovative Health Initiative is a European partnership in health between, on one side, the European Union, represented by the European Commission, and on the other side, the Healthcare Industry Association, that are COSIR, that represent the medical imaging, radiotherapy, health, ICT, and electromedical industries. The FPA, that is the pharmaceutical and vaccine industry, so include also the Vaccine Europe sub-association, and then Europa Bio, that represent the biotechnology industry, and MedTech Europe, that represent the medical technology industry. So IHI as a public-private partnership has some general objectives that are put in stone in our legislation, which is first and importantly really to try to turn health research and innovation into real benefit for patient and society. In Europe, we have a very, very vibrant science environment. We have very fantastic research, and but we see a bit of a challenge to turn this research in really something concrete that can then be delivered to the healthcare system and to the patient and eventually to society, since all of us could one day become a patient and be in need to have the services of the healthcare system. Then what should be done is really to help to deliver safe, effective health innovation, then cover the entire spectrum of care. So from prevention of disease to diagnosis and treatment, and of course, focusing on areas where is a high unmet public health need. And of course, we are a public-private partnership between industry and European Commission, so it's very important for industry that also we have as objective to make Europe health industry globally competitive. Our principle and content of research at high level is included in the strategic research and innovation agenda, which has a specific focus on cross-sectorial approaches to facilitate the creation of new products and services. As I said before, the focus is to prevent, intercept, diagnose, treat, and manage diseases, and foster recovery more efficiently. And the goal is really to lay the foundation for the development of all this innovation and therefore more safer and effective healthcare products and solutions that respond to these unmet public health needs. And they can be also implementable and implemented one day into healthcare system. Said that, the research supported by IHI should remain at the pre-competitive level. Therefore, IHI and its topic are not the right place if you are specifically interested to develop a very specific product or service. Here is more to do the research that will then allow you to be successful to further develop and launch your product and services. And you can read it at the link that is provided on this slide. So as such, being IHI a public-private partnership, we expect also that all the projects that we fund and we launch are public-private partnership. How we create this project is via open and competitive call proposal, like the one that we are presenting to you today. And we expect also that all the projects will be cross-sectorial public-private partnership that are leveraging on one side contribution that are provided by industrial partners from the IHI Industry Association that I mentioned before, so COSIA, EFIA, including Vaccine Europe, Europe About, MedTech Europe, and if relevant, contribution from contributing partners that must be approved beforehand by the IHI governing board. So this contribution in the IHI project are leveraged, of course, with public funding, which is provided by the European Commission and is part of the Horizon Europe framework program funding. So the call that we are going to talk about today is a single stage call. What does it mean? Is that once the call will be launched, and as already announced, this will come and happen tomorrow, then a consortia will be invited to submit their proposal. And this consortia have to have the full composition of members that will be then seen in the final project. And of course, this means that it can be private partner, academic, contributing partner, SME, healthcare professional, regulator, patient organization, HCD board, etc., all depending on the specific topic, as we will talk a little bit more. And they have, of course, to then bring themselves together, create a consortium, and then prepare the proposal and submit it. Then all the proposals are evaluated by independent expert. There will be a ranking list, and the proposals that are over threshold and they are in the ranking list will be funded as long as there is a budget. Of course, once we have the evaluation concluded, we will also do the work that is necessary for the preparation of the grant, its signature, and then the project will be able to start. So, but now let's go a little bit more talking about this specific topic, which is entitled Clinical Validation of Biomarker for Diagnosis, Monitoring Disease Progression, and Treatment Response. So what is the challenge that it is behind this topic? Well, I think that all of you that are here are well aware that biomarker-driven approach for diagnosis, monitoring disease progression, and assessing treatment response have a very big potential to progress precision medicine and ensure that indeed the patient get the right treatment, they get it at the right moment, and also they are following the best treatment pathway. Now, what we know is also that we have a very much big number of biomarkers that are, let's say, in the early research phase. We do a lot of research on biomarker, but very few of these biomarkers are subject to very rigorous testing in clinical setting and are shown eventually to be fit for purpose. And this is what we mean by clinical validated. So, to match subject to clinical testing in clinical setting and then found to be fit for purpose. On the other hand, also, we have several novel biomarkers which are very promising, but the technology that is needed to make them accessible for clinical use maybe is not mature enough, which can hamper their validation for use. For example, there are many novel high innovative technology in development, like imaging, artificial intelligence, phage-based diagnostic, and so on, and the further development and validation, would be necessary element for validating the detected biomarker in the clinic. Also, so technology development could be very important also for the validation of the biomarker and important. But also, what is also important is to understand that for scaling up really the clinical validation of candidated biomarker, there is a need to have a full understanding and alignment between the expectation on biomarker utility of different healthcare actors. So therefore, there is the need really to create a methodological frameworks that reflect all the and align all the different stakeholders, because they can have very different idea if they are, for example, patient, clinician, academic, healthcare technology development, or regulators. So clearly, this for being able to address such a challenge, there is the need for a public-private cross-sectorial collaboration that really could enable this validation of biomarker and development of the cleaning technologies. And for this, it is important that there is an engagement with patient and patient organization, clinicians, statisticians, biomarker specialists, machine learning specialists, and other scientists as relevant, healthcare professional, of course, because we are talking about clinical validation, and so it's important to know how to do this in a clinical setting, in the hospital. Of course, expert in regulatory affairs, small, medium-sized enterprise that can be important for bringing their innovation, as well as the pharmaceutical and medical technology industry that also bring their important and critical know-how to the partnership. So how, once with this partnership, what should be the scope of the topic of this that the applicant should address? So as I said, it's really to progress candidated biomarker towards clinical validation and when relevant to regulatory absence, and progress towards clinical validation, innovative technology necessary for making the biomarker accessible for clinical use. It has to be noted that in proposal focusing uniquely on these technologies, the applicant should justify how this progress will enable the validation of the biomarker for use in a clinical context. So there need to be a clear and evident link to the biomarker for this technology is to be used. So which activity are expected to be done by the applicant in the project and therefore to be presented in the proposal is, of course, the first important activity is to assemble a cross-sectorial public-private partnership that will be able to align and develop a methodological framework and a roadmap for progressing the selected candidated biomarker and or link technology which are necessary for enabling the clinical use of the biomarker and to get to a rigorous clinical validation. Of course, it is important that applicant really clearly justify and demonstrate in their proposal why that area respond to an unmet public health need. Then, of course, they should present activities that are for progressing the biomarker or the technology towards clinical and analytical validation in one or more of the areas that are of interest of the topic, which could be for diagnosis disease, early treatment path selection, monitoring disease progression, or treatment response assessment. It is clear also that there is a pretty broad spectrum of biomarker that could be of relevance. And for that, please refer on to the topic text where you have all more details, as well also for the technology that might be of interest. But what is very, very important is that applicants should provide in the proposal sufficient preliminary evidence, including regulatory methodologies and high-quality data, to demonstrate that the biomarker and or the technology can be progressed towards clinical validation and when relevant to regulatory acceptance. So this is really because clinical validation is a very ambitious endeavor. And of course, there will be a certain amount of budget and time available to the applicant, and it has to be sure that indeed this can be feasibly achieved. Of course, in order to do the work, there will be the need also to build a collaborative platform, and it is expected that this collaborative platform is built taking in consideration existing solutions, do not reinvent the wheel. And of course, this platform will be needed for integrating, analyzing, and sharing the data for the evaluation of the biomarker, which can be, of course, data that are already available, that are brought in at the beginning of the project, as well as data that will be created during the project. And also, of course, it is the expectation that the platform could be further used beyond the duration of the project to support further biomarker validation. So it is important that of course, the applicant take in good consideration and demonstrate that the platform that they created has the necessary qualification and characteristic to allow this further use, and which is very important for sustainability of any result created during the project. And please read more detail in the topic text. And of course, also consider the FAIR principle. It is also expected that the applicant will develop a regulatory strategy and an interaction plan for evidence generation to support the regulatory qualification of the biomarker and or the technology, and engage with regulator in a timely manner. Of course, the identity of this regulation will depend if we are talking about the type of the biomarker or if we're talking of the technology. And is expected, of course, the applicant will consider the correct regulators. And not only is important, of course, an interaction, critical interaction with the regulator for the activity of the project, but it's also important that the applicant elaborate a plan for interacting also for all the other relevant actors that are that have to learn on the healthcare system to align on the utility of the biomarker that are selected by the applicant, which can be, of course, the patient, the healthcare technology developer, academic, and so on. And this is really important if we want to get to a good clinical use of the biomarker and really have an effective guidance of the roadmap to get to the full clinical validation of this biomarker. Last but not least, of course, it's important that applicant consider that the dissemination of the result of the project is critical. It is really in the scope, in principal scope of this topic, really to ensure that there is an uptake of the relevant stakeholder, including healthcare system and technology developer. And of course, since there might be more than one project that is created by this topic, it is expected that applicants are aware and consider that they will have to synergize with other relevant project created by the topic, but also beyond, and also taking in consideration projects that, for example, are already being created by the Call 3 Topic 1, which is more about a platform for screening of biomarker. So what are the expected outcomes that should be get out of the result of this of the proposals when there is also a good exploitation and dissemination of the result? So combination of the two, you should get an expected outcome that will reach the healthcare professional and the researcher, which of course are novel, robust, and fit purpose biomarker with linked technology, that can be used really in clinical setting and then progress towards full validation. For also researchers, there will be important outcome to have some robust and fit for purpose biomarker linked technology that can be then used for development of safer and more effective personalized treatment, or also can be key technology that are very useful for the safer, appropriate use and selection of a corresponding drug or biological product or its development. And of course, there are important outcomes also for the regulator as robust evidence on the suitability of the selected biomarker and their linked technology to enable regulatory acceptance for a specific use. In the long term, it is expected that there will be some important impact from the project generated from the topic, like, for example, first of all, new clinical validated biomarker-driven approaches that will be available for more precise and effective diagnosis, linear diagnostic to treatment pathway, better treatment path selection, or improved follow-up and treatment response assessment and monitoring. It is also expected that this biomarker pathway will, of course, help and reduce the diagnostic and therapeutic burden for patient and also caregiver. For example, this could be achieved by favoring non or minimally invasive approaches that could be critically enabled by this biomarker. It is also expected that an important impact will be as validated tools and approaches that will support evidence-based health and care decision, addressing both the need of the patient and of the healthcare system. And last but not least, of course, it is expected that in long term, this could help and benefit industry as an increased competitiveness of European health industries. As I said before, dissemination, exploitation, and communication is extremely important. And it's important that also for this activity, there is adequate budget that is reserved. For this activity, please do not underestimate it, and remember also to describe carefully your dissemination, exploitation, and communication measure, and also the target group that need to be addressed. And in particular, really to encourage the uptake of the results through a strong communication outreach plan, allocate appropriate resources to explore synergy with other relevant initiatives and projects so they can even multiply what you do you will do and you plan to do in your proposal and future project. And also please remember that for this topic, the 3A's provision, availability, accessibility, and affordability are applicable. And please read more on what this means in our call condition that will be available from next week. So what if we come for the budget? We have an available budget funding from IHI for this topic of 45 million, and it is expected that considering the ambition of biomarker clinical validation, possibly to achieve all the outcome and impact, an IHI financial contribution around 15 million will be necessary. Now, due to the rules in IHI and the fact that we have a public-private partnership, it is expected that in each proposal and future topic, there is at least 45% of the project budget that is represented by contribution from the project participants that are members of the industry or contributing partner. So if we talk about around 15 million, so we should expect around 15 million of contribution, being 45% really the absolute minimum, which is always a bit risky, getting to a proposed full project budget of around 30 million. So that, of course, applicants are fully free to propose other type of budget, request other amount of funding that is proportionate to the activity that they intend to do in their proposal and therefore future project. But just to give you an idea now, just if you have to put the budget together, what you have to think about it. Let's say that we have different type of participant which will be asking funding or provide a contribution. So on one side, we have the so-called public partner that we see in the first row, which can be indeed also all those partners that request to be fully funded by the IHI funding. And let's say that this ask 15 million of cost. They ask to be funded 100%, and if they have eligible cost for 15 million, then they will be reimbursed for 15 million. They are not providing any contribution. Then in a project, we will have, as I say, we need also contributors, which will be private vendor and possibly also contributing partner. They can provide different type of contribution, and you have all the explanation in other webinar on what this ECOP, EKA financial contributions mean. But let's say that they have 15 million of this contribution, and which are eligible costs, so they are, and then, but they don't ask any reimbursement of this cost. They are full contribution. We can also have then another type of participant, which can be again member of the IHI Industry Association and contributing partner, which participate in an hybrid mode, meaning they are participating and also partially ask to have their cost covered by the GU funding. And let's say in this case, they have a total cost of 10 million, this participant, but of this cost, 5 million they ask to be funded by the IHI funding, and 5 million they bring them as contribution. So if you put everything together, we will end up with a project or a proposal that will have a total budget of 40 million, of which there will be 20 million that will be a request from GU funding, and 20 million that will come as a contribution. In this case, a proposal of this type would be fully eligible. So now this is a little bit of the principle, but now what about when you have to come along and submit your proposal? So you will see that there is a proposal template. This will be available in the submission platform for you, and it is also available on the IHI website, but as a dummy, but the real one will be available in the submission interface. And is composed of different parts. We have the part A, which is where you put all your administrative data and other data, like, for example, the number of researchers, your infrastructure, etc., that is entered in web form through the funding internal portal, so fully online. The part B, instead of the proposal, is the narrative part, and this part it will be have to be uploaded in the portal as a PDF file. And it is composed on three parts: excellence, impact, quality, and efficiency of the implementation. We have a very nice, I would say, template with a lot of instruction for you to read, hopefully carefully, and in order to prepare accurately and in a proper way each part of this part B of the proposal. So please read the instruction very, very carefully. You also will need to submit some annexes. One annex will include all the participants and the participant type in your consortium. Then you will have to submit an annex with a budget detail. And in case of clinical studies, that I would say are pretty relevant for this type of topic, but of course, maybe in some cases will not be necessary. Also, clinical studies template. And remember that if you have more than one clinical study, you're supposed to describe them and with all the elements for each of them. So once you have submitted the proposal, the IHI office will do a eligibility check, which will include also if the proposal have at least 45%. So this is the eligibility criteria. And then the eligible proposal will go through the evaluation by panel of independent experts. The independent expert will look at all proposals and will evaluate them following three criteria: the excellence, the impact, and the implementation. So the first criterion, as shown in this slide, is the excellence. And of course, the first thing that they will have to evaluate is the fact that the proposal is clear and is in line, is pertinent of the project objective, pertinent to the scope of the topic. And of course, if it's sufficiently ambitious and go beyond the state of the art. And I would not stress more how it is important that the proposal is clear, because of course, if the evaluator read a nice, clearly written proposal, they are already in a better mood than if you make the work very difficult by writing a very confusing proposal. So please really read it very well, give it to read maybe to some colleague before submitting, but please, it's very important. Of course, then a very important aspect will be the sounded to propose methodology. There are many different aspects that will be considered, and they are shown in the slides. But of course, please remember that it is extremely important that you show that your methodology is correct, is sound, is feasible, that is conceptually fit for purpose, and of course is interdisciplinary, and of course include also the good cross-sectorial approach, taking advantage of the public-private partnership model of IHI. The second concept is that of impact, and the first crucial criteria is the credibility of the pathway to achieve the expected outcome and impact, as specified. So please remember, is the point that I presented, and that you will read, please, in the topic text. And of course, we'll also look at the likely scale and significance of the contribution of your the future project to this impact. Last, of course, not least, on the impact, of course, there will be also an evaluation of the suitability and quality of the measure that are considered and presented to maximize the expected outcome and impact. And this, of course, will depend on and will be set up in the dissemination exploitation plan, including the communication activity. The third criterion is the quality and efficiency of the implementation. And here, of course, the evaluator will look at the quality and effectiveness of the work plan, how the different activity are, of course, presented in a solid plan for implementation, and all the tasks make sense, the delivery of the milestone, etc. And of course, we look at the risk assessment and the appropriateness of the effort that are sent to the work package and the resources overall, both the contribution and, of course, the resources that are funded from the IHI fund. There will be, of course, a criteria is the capacity role of each participant and the extent to which the consortium as a whole bring together the necessary expertise in a complementary way without having, of course, some redundancies or, of course, missing. So if some critical experience and capacity is missing, that will be, of course, considered. And the last but not least, being an IHI public partnership, is important that the evaluator will also have to evaluate that there are clearly defined and effective integration of the in-kind and potential also financial contribution, including those of the IHI GU private member, their constituents or affiliate entity. And this because it's critical to enable a successful public-private partnership. So now you know all the theory, but I would like to give you some bit more concrete tips for the preparation of your proposal. Well, the first important and maybe obvious, but it's not so obvious for what I have seen in my experience, is that really often people read only the highlight of all the different documents that are available. There is a lot of very comprehensive documents that are really important for you to be successful. So please read all the color relevant material, and especially, of course, the topic text. All this material is available on the IHI website. Then it takes time to get together a good consortium, and therefore think and start forming your consortium as early as possible. And always think public-private partnership, because you need to have all the different partners, you need to want to provide the contribution, and you need also all the relevant actors funded by the GU funding. And so indeed important include partner bringing in-kind contribution, because this is an eligibility criterion and important for the public-private partnership dimension. Of course, again, ensure that all information requested in the call text and proposal template is provided to allow the evaluating expert to easily assess your proposal against the evaluation criteria. The proposal template follow exactly the evaluation criteria. So therefore, please make the work of the evaluator easy. That will be very important for you to be successful. And especially important for this topic, consider and plan the potential regulatory impact of the results. So now, what about finding project partner? Of course, you can be here and then decide either to build or to join a consortium. And please, first of all, network your contact and the IHI Call participant. And then use, of course, the EU funding and tender portal partner search to get in touch with your IHI national contact point, and network on social media can be also very important, both on Twitter or X, how it's called now, so on LinkedIn, etc. But please be active and be active as fast as possible. That's really, really important.
Thank you, Elisabetta. So before we start the question session, we would like to promote the different sessions that we are holding on call 6 and 7 these days. So we had the rule and procedures for single stage call this morning, and we will have the financial webinar tomorrow. So there is still time for you to register if you are interested in this topic. Also, we have the pitching session regarding the call 7. So they will be held on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of January. So if you would like to pitch, there are several steps to follow. So you have to indicate this in your profile by Friday, by tomorrow, end of day, and then register for the pitching session, depending on the topic that you want to pitch for. Create a participant profile and create a marketplace. This is mandatory. It's the criteria to be able to pitch. And then once you're selected, download the template and send us your PPT presentation by the 19th of January. Also, I would like to remind to all of you that the slides and the session, which is recorded, will be published on the IHI website. So now we can start the question session. So we have a first question from Antoine. Antoine is asking, does a proposal need to address the 3 components, diagnosis, plus monitoring disease progression, plus treatment response, or can we focus on biomarkers addressing only one of these 3 aspects?
So no, you don't need to address everything, of course. You can focus on the aspect of your choice. So it can be a diagnostic, can be for treatment assessment. So it is up to you.
Okay, thank you, Elisabetta. The next one is from Jérôme. How ready should the biomarkers to be validated be for this proposal? How much room is there in the call for biomarkers identification activities rather than validation?
So this is a topic specifically on biomarker validation. So I think that it says it all.
Okay, that is clear. The next one is from Stefan. Is it really pre-competitive when a project validates specific, in brackets, proprietary, biomarkers?
Yeah, this is the challenge, of course, that indeed it is expected that there will be not the development, let's say, is not the main output of a project expected to be a specific project. It should be really the focus, because it could be, of course, that at the end there will be a product to be completely validated. I mean, we are also aware that clinical validation is an extremely long process. It takes many, many years and many, many resources. So, of course, would be great, but it is mainly to really create the environment and make all the steps that will get to this validation. And there is expected that, of course, there will be a dissemination of the results and many activity that indeed are pre-competitive. If there will be also development of a product, it could happen, but it's not a specific, let's say, expectation that could happen within the duration of the project. Could happen afterwards.
Perfect, thank you, Elisabetta. The next one is from Tiziana. So she says that there are many unmet health needs, and she's asking which kind of diseases are here taken in consideration.
This topic is completely broad and open. So it's up to you, really, to make a good justification that the area that where you are suggesting to provide the progressed clinical validation of market technology, it is an area that corresponds to an unmet public health need. So there is no specific diseases that are in scope or not in scope.
Okay. Sophia is asking, does this call require launching clinical trials?
Well, clinical trials or clinical studies. Of course, we are talking about clinical validation, which would assume some clinical activity will have to be carry on. Of course, then applicant, if they have another brilliant idea and approach to progress to clinical validation, that of course could be also acceptable. There will be the evaluator that will decide and will evaluate if this is fit for purpose, but there is no limitation. So it's really up to the applicant to make a good case for the activity that they intend to include in their proposal.
Okay, now we have Rodrigo asking, are retrospective data allowed, or the call aims to generate prospective data only?
No, there is no, of course, considering the fact that indeed it is expected that there is already a significant, as is written in the topic test, and I think I already mentioned that the applicant have to come to a robust evidence for the fact that the biomarker is validated, and this will of course include suggest data.
Okay. Christina is asking, what are the expected number of projects to be funded?
It is a very difficult question because, of course, it depends on the quality of the proposal. We could end up with zero if none is over threshold. And as you say, the full budget is 45 million for this topic. And it will depend on the quality of the proposal, on the funding request that they have. So it is a little bit difficult. Let's say if we expect that applicant that come with a solid plan possibly will ask around 15 million, and considering that would say that we could have 15, if we have 15 million then we will have the project. But as I say, this is completely open because it depends on you applicant to come with your bid of funding. And also just to say, I didn't comment on the duration of the project, but again, being this is a single stage topic, there is no pre-identified duration of the future project, but of course applicants are expected to come with their bid on which duration of activity they need to achieve all their objective and reach to the outcome and impacts.
Thank you, Elisabetta. The next one is from Avidan. He's asking, is there in this call a focus on any specific disease or any disease excluded beside the unmet consideration? In particular, are COVID-19 and respiratory disease included in the call?
As I said before, there is no pre-identified disease area.
Okay, clear. Angelica is asking us, does the requirement to synergize with projects funded under Call 3 Topic 1 mean that only biomarkers related to the disease covered there will be considered for funding?
These are examples of synergies. So that means that also that from a portfolio sort of management from IHI, we will look, of course, to have our project to synergize in a proper way in order to have a good portfolio management. But as I say, it is also up to the applicant to see which synergies could be more relevant for their specific proposal.
Okay.
So applicant should not be feel forced. Okay.
Perfect. Sergio is telling us that he's a bit puzzled and is asking, how do you advance biomarkers towards clinical validation or regulatory acceptance while using pre-competitive biomarkers?
I'm sorry, but I think that this is, well, you can still be pro-competitive and indeed progress biomarkers to clinical validation. I don't think that the two concepts are exclusive. You can do that. So that's, you can have a lot of discussion, you can progress and discuss with the regulators in a competitive way. And we have done this in many projects under IMI. And you can also read, for example, results from our project to, on this approach. So that is possible.
Okay. Daniela is asking, are private hospitals eligible for full funding? This is for you, Caroline.
Yes, good afternoon. Hi. So I will take the more legal questions. Yes, well, we in IHI, we need to differentiate between entities which are eligible to participate and eligible to receive funding. IHI is quite open. Pretty much all the entities are eligible to participate in our calls, but only some of them are eligible to receive funding. And now, if you're asking about private hospitals, it will depend basically where they're based. So if you have in mind private hospitals, which are entities which are established in the countries that are members of the European Union or in the Horizon Europe associated countries, then yes, they will be eligible. But if you're asking about, for example, private hospitals in the US, they won't be eligible. So we would require a bit more background to answer this question specifically. And also I wanted to mention that today in the morning we had a very long webinar on the rules and procedures of IHI, where my colleague Desmond has explained in detail the rules of eligibility in both single stage and two-stage calls. So I would invite you to watch the recording of that as well.
Thank you, Carolina. The next question is from Sergio. Is asking, is the expectation that a platform/methodology/structure is created to advance a pipeline of biomarkers, but the proprietary biomarkers are not part of the project?
Well, let's say that it is an expectation that the applicant clearly identify the biomarker of technology that they want to proceed to clinical validation. So indeed, the biomarker technology will have to be, let's say, revealed in the proposal, because otherwise it will not be possible to understand if the plan that is proposed for the validation is fit for purpose or not, if it's not clear what is the biomarker or technology.
Thank you. And now we have Francesco asking, can extra-Europe country, for example, Canada, participate in this call as a third part?
Well, that's very interesting that you're asking about, for example, Canada, because Canada has recently joined the second pillar of Horizon Europe. So Canada right now, in terms of IHI, is considered an associated country, is eligible for funding. But that is in case of Canada and, for example, New Zealand. But that is obviously not applicable to some other third countries who did not negotiate the Horizon Europe Association Agreement. My colleagues have put on the chat the list, the link with the list of the most recent developments when it comes to negotiations of Horizon Europe agreements. So you can have a look in the chat. And I've also saw that there may be a question about Switzerland. Switzerland is currently considered a third country. As far as we know, Switzerland has no intention of joining Horizon Europe. Therefore, entities originating from Switzerland are not eligible to receive funding from IHI, but we know that the Swiss government is offering some options for entities that would like to participate in projects.
Yeah. So like just to summarize, let's say everybody is very welcome to participate to IHI. We really would like to see all the good actors also beyond Europe to participate to our project, but there are some rules about who we can fund.
Yes, I saw that there was a question about the US, I think, as well, whether entities from the US are eligible to receive funding. As Elisabetta said, entities from the US are eligible to participate. They are not eligible to receive funding because the US is not a Horizon Europe associated country. As far as we know, the US has no intention of negotiating an association agreement. But There are some very specific rules about essentiality of entities coming from third countries, which in very exceptional circumstances can receive funding from IHI. But if you would like to know a little bit more about that, I again invite you to watch the recording of the webinar, which took place today in the morning, the rules and procedures, because that particular aspect was explained in detail by my colleague Desmond this morning.
Thank you both for your explanation. The next one is from Christina. Can a private partner that doesn't belong to an industry association be a contributing partner?
That is also a great question, because indeed, if I would like to reverse this question, a private partner, so I mean a private, I guess you mean a private company, a company that is a member of our private members, so one of the 4 industry associations who are members of IHI, indeed cannot become a contributing partner. This obviously doesn't mean that such company cannot participate in the project. It just means that they need to participate in the capacity of a private member of IHI, not in the capacity of a contributing partner. Well, there are some rules who may become a contributing partner. There are some conditions to fill in. First of all, the contribution of a potential contributing partner needs to fulfill the criteria of eligibility, which are described in the Model Grant Agreement, Article 6. And also the contribution of the contributing partner needs to have relevance to both the project itself, the topic, but also the relevance of the general strategic objectives of IHI. I did a separate webinar on contributing partners a few weeks ago, where we explained this very much in detail. I think my colleagues have already put a link on the chat to that webinar, so I would encourage everyone who's interested in becoming a contributing partner to watch this webinar, but also the coordinators of projects that would include contributing partners. There's a lot of very useful information there.
Thank you, Carolina. And we also have Christopher asking if an academic partners be contributing partners as well as beneficiaries, because he says that it's not the advantage.
That is a very common question. Yeah. Thank you for this question. We also had this exactly the same question this morning. The short answer is yes. The long answer is obviously depends. In general, contributing partners who may also be academic institutions, if they fulfill the criteria of becoming a contributing partner in terms of more general contribution to IHI, the topic and the proposal itself. They might take the so-called hybrid role in a consortium, meaning that they take the role of both contributing partner and a beneficiary. And if they are eligible for funding, and here again, I need to remind you of the general rules of eligibility for funding. If they are eligible for funding, they may request funding. This is also something that I explained in detail during the dedicated contributing partner webinar, which took place in October, and we have a recording of that on our website, and we have the slides as well. Also on our website, we have the document titled Guide for Contributing Partners, which provides you with complete information on this topic.
Thank you. The next one is from Julie. She's asking, could IHI provide support from a regulatory representative in the case of finalization of product design documentation prior to submission to notified bodies?
Well, let's say that the preparation of this documentation might be a very final part of the activity of a proposal, where actually there will be the benefit that a consortium could then, and is expected, is really an expectation in this topic, that they will enter in the dialogue with the regulators and to prepare the good package that will be then progressed in a successful way. So could be indeed an activity and can be an eligible activity. This is the question.
Thank you, Elisabetta. Federica is asking, a non-profit organization should be a contributing partner, sorry, question mark.
Well, the question is whether should be why, if they would like to, I understand. There is no restriction as to who may be a contributing partner, except for what I already said, an organization that is a member of our private members. So in general, yes, a non-profit organization may become a contributing partner if they fulfill the conditions of becoming a contributing partner, meaning if their contribution is eligible and is relevant to IHI, then, well, yes, they can apply. And if they become accepted by the governing board, they can be a contributing partner.
I would like to stress what Carolina said, that the importance of the strategic value of being a contributing partner for the IHI. This is an important criterion that the governing board will look at in order to approve or not the contributing partner.
Thank you both. Next one is from Sophia. Is a private donor allowed?
What do you mean with private donor?
Yeah,
don't
in
have
which
any
sense?
details.
In which sense? As a participant, as a beneficiary, we would need a little bit more background. So perhaps if Sophia is still on the line, she could
Maybe
rephrase
she
this
can
question.
type another question a bit
Yeah.
more detailed.
Yeah,
We can
In the
answer.
sense that, of course, you can have also other contribution that can be included in your budget. But of course, this will be a separate part. You can have also geofunding, you can have contribution from those entities that are eligible for providing a contribution, and then you can have a top up from other donors. That, of course, is always possible.
Okay, let's give some time to Sophia if she can give us more details on the chat panel. We move to the next one. Nicola is asking, do evaluation criteria, excellence, impact, implementation have coefficients?
So we have a threshold that is 3 for each of the criteria. And then we have 10 as the minimum threshold for a proposal to be over threshold globally. So there is a 3 out of 5 that is the minimum for passing a single criteria, and 10 for the proposal to pass, to be over threshold, if that's what you mean. But they have the same way.
Okay, the next one is from Francesca. Cost associated to the provision of kits/assay for biomarkers identification from developing companies may be considered as an in-kind contribution, question mark.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a tricky one in the sense that for a cost to be eligible, the company will have to be able to have this cost registered in the books, of course, and it needed to be a cost that it has to be an actual cost that is incurred during the duration of the project. So it needed to be registered in the books. They need to be incurred during the project, and it has to be exactly as any other cost that another applicant would approach. So the criteria for eligibility are the one of the financial regulation.
Thank you. Sophia is also asking, can we focus on certain malignancies?
It depends. We are talking about the biomarkers. So if you can make your case for a biomarker that is relevant and in the concept of certain specific cancer, why not? But will be up to you.
Okay. Christoph is asking, how can we approach private members to inquire to join a consortium? So here we would say that it's mainly on the B2Match platform. So this is for single stage, this is the only spot where you can find and make the most of the platform to search for partnership and create a consortia. I do have some slides. Let me show them to you on how to create a marketplace. So you log into your profile in the platform, and then you click on the marketplace on the menu tab. You search for your project, you tick the project cooperation. You choose, of course, on the step number 3, the call topic in which you are interested in. And then on the right side, you can browse and see all the marketplace, and then you can contact the partners that you are interested in. You can send them messages, you can set up meetings, and also how to book meetings via the B2Match platforms. It's really 4 easy steps. First, you need to make yourself available, and then look for a partner on the participant tab. They are all there. Once you have found your partner, you select a date, a time. You can be up to 8 attendees per meeting. This is important. and you can send messages and wait for a reply. This is the only way to find like partners. Of course, there is networking, the social media, etc. But the platform is there for especially for this. So let's go back to the questions. The next one is from Olger. I hope I pronounced it well. Maybe so he or she's saying, maybe I have missed, by when does the consortium has to submit the proposal?
So the call will be launched next week, and then will be also available the date of submission, which is around 3 months after. I don't think we can
or maybe a bit more.
Exactly.
I think it's a bit more.
Or is a bit more actually.
I think it's a little bit more, but
Yeah.
that information will be available next week, I think, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Federica is also asking, in the wide range of clinical biomarkers, could we consider also data that can be acquired by using wearable sensors such as physical activity, tremor, sleeping quantity, and so on?
Yes, of course.
My colleague is just showing me that the date will be the 22nd of May, which is a Wednesday, I think. That will be the deadline for call 7.
Okay, thank you. Daniela is asking, can we focus on infectious diseases and antibiotic resistance? Sorry.
It depends. Again, it's up to you if you can manage to demonstrate that it fits with the topic objective, that is clinical validation of biomarker and linked technologies. Okay.
Raul is asking also for deadlines. So as you know, the official launch of the call will be
January.
Yeah. And but you can find all the dates on our website. During on the day of the launch, everything will be detailed on our IHI website. The next one, we have the same question from 2 persons. What is the expected duration of the project?
As I say, I think already during my presentation, it is up to the applicant to propose a duration that is, of course, fit with the activity that they are proposing to implement, and also that is enabling the achievement of the objective and the outcomes. So it is really up to the applicant to come with the best possible plan. And this will be one of the things that will be evaluated under the third criterion, that is the quality of the implementation.
Perfect. We have a question from Chanju. Does an organization have to pitch in order to be eligible for submitting a proposal?
No, I would say that the pitching is really only an opportunity that is given to you to present you and to make your case, especially if you want to become a partner in another consortium, or if you are creating your own consortium, you need some good partner.
Indeed. Louise is asking, if the intention is to create the environment, then why not work on the identification first and not on an already identified biomarker in order to keep it pre-competitive?
Well, because this topic is specifically on validation of biomarker. We had another topic previously in the call 3 that was more about the screening platform and identification of biomarker. So this topic is really on validation of biomarker.
Thank you. Holger is asking, what is the size of a typical proposal? For example, how many partners, overall time horizon of the project, funding amounts, etc.
Okay, so as I say, this really are up to the individual consortia. Please remember that these are public-private partnerships which are expected to include already the relevant end user as part of the consortium in order to really make a co-creation of the solution that are developed. So remember to have all the necessary actors to be included, and this will give you more or less the number of, let's say, members that you will need. And then, of course, it will depend on all about the scope of your proposal. And the same will be, as I mentioned before, for the duration and the budget that will be necessary for you to achieve your objective. And just remember, this will be things that evaluator will look at to see if really you have done a good job in your planning, in your creation of your consortium, etc.
Thank you, Elisabetta. Aurélie is asking, is it recommended to focus on one disease or disease spectrum, or are you looking for biomarkers applicable in several ones?
Again, this is could be very interesting to see what we will get, because it's completely open and it's up to the applicant to make their case.
Okay. Jantine is asking, is there a minimum of funding to be asked?
No, there is no minimum and no maximum, so if not a maximum budget that is available for this topic, but it's up to the applicant. And remember that you are expected to address all the outcome and all the impacts.
Louise now is asking, if each subtopic can be addressed separately, each should be 5 million, question mark.
There is not subtopic here. So I don't understand, in the sense that you can be for diagnostic, I mean, or treatment or disease progression, you mean, and of course different or treatment follow-up. Is that what you mean as a subtopic? No, it is not expected that you have different component in addressing everything. But is it up to you? And so that's really completely open.
Okay. Francesca is asking, undergoing IMI project may be considered for developing possible synergies? Question mark.
Yes, of course. If it's a good case, of course.
Now we have Jetro asking, project will be funded in priority on order until the pot is empty. Is it possible, therefore, that a lower ranked, cheaper study with adequate score could be funded above a higher ranked, more expensive project?
Well, you said it's the ranking. So if it's a project has a higher ranking, which means a higher score, of course, this project will have then it means that we will stop the ranking at that level.
Irakli ask, what do you mean by pre-competitive biomarkers?
We are not talking about pre-competitive biomarker. We are talking about pre-competitive research that can get to a biomarker. So that's a concept of the research to be done. That is a research that has to be done in a collaborative way, sharing all data and knowledge within the member of the consortium. That is the meaning of the pre-competitive. Then, of course, in this concept, there can be also space for the development of biomarker and their further, let's say, commercialization, which is probably expected to happen beyond the duration of the project. But the activity in an IHI project are expected to be activity where everybody collaborate in an open innovation spirit.
Okay, now we have Louise. If there are examples where pre-competitive biomarkers move forward in a similar framework, which are those, and should we build this experience based on those?
Well, we have different elements. I mean, now, please have a look. Now, I don't have on the tip of my fingers an example, but we have a different project that are working about development of biomarker and progressing them towards clinical validation. I mean, for example, if you look at we have a project on autism that is for example, not fully working towards clinical validation of biomarker, and has already, for example, obtained qualification advice from regulator. So this is just an example, and we have many more if you look on our website, and you can identify some of these examples.
Okay, next one is from Sergio. When a company has a novel biomarker, this is my competitive advantage, open brackets, even if pre-market, if that's what you mean by pre-competitive. Why would a company share that competitive advantage with a very large consortium?
Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe it has a biomarker that he believes that could be used, for a specific use, but he needs really to, let's say, discuss this with a broad number of stakeholders. That can be the patient, the clinician that will have to use it, the regulators, and before he will be able then to progress further, maybe beyond the project, and get that biomarker completely validated. And then, of course, this could be an activity of the project. But clearly, we'll have to be agree to share the knowledge with all the different actors that will be in the consortium.
Yes. Despina would like to know how many partners from the same country are allowed.
Well, there is no such a restriction, but
No.
but there is a different restriction. So in the general rules of how we establish consortia under Horizon Europe, you need to have, if I remember correctly, at least 2 countries. So you have to have one consortium member from one EU country, and then you need to have another consortium member from either a EU country or EU or Horizon Europe associated countries. And there are also restrictions on how many at least participants you need to have in a consortium. So there are rules on that, but there is no direct restriction saying you can have maximum 5 participants from Belgium or France or something like that. So, but in terms of consortium composition, I also invite you to have a look at our frequently asked questions document. My colleagues will paste a link to the call documents section of our website where you have that, and in that document we answer some of those questions that come up. For example, who's eligible, who can participate, those general questions that we have today as well. You can have a look in the frequently asked questions document.
Thank you, Carolina. Next one is from Michael. Are foundations such as Sander Institute Wellcome Trust allowed to contribute in-kind funding?
Yeah, so here those type of entities, so foundations, are very welcome to apply to become contributing partners and then contribute in kind. But without becoming contributing partners, they may not contribute ICOP. They need to become contributing partners first. But we have had foundations become contributing partners in both IHI and in IMI2 in our predecessor. Because the work of such foundations is quite often aligned with the objectives of IHI, as we mentioned before with Elisabetta, that this is a very important aspect.
Thank you. Deborah is asking, where could we have the list of private companies belonging to the industries consortia allowed to participate?
Yeah, industry consortia, maybe she means industry associations. Yeah, so I suspect that you mean industry associations, meaning the 4 industry associations who are the private members of IHI. So we do not have the lists of the companies that are the constituent and affiliate entities of our private members, but such lists are usually available on the websites of our private members. So if you go to our website and click on who we are, then you will go to partners, and my colleague, I think, is pasting now the link on the chat, and over there you will see links to the websites of our private members, so COSIR, MedTech, FPA. And on their websites, you have quite complete lists of their membership. IHI doesn't share such lists because we are obviously not the owner of such lists, and but we can share with you the links to their website where you will should be able to find this.
Yeah, and consider also that there are national associations that are part of the European association, so you have really to dig on their website, because you will see there are lots of companies.
Yes, and also you can contact them if you have a doubt. So, for example, if you do not know if your company is a member of a national association, you can contact them directly. Like this can be a case as well.
Thank you. I think Sophia give us more detail on her question. She says a private donor is an individual who donates funds for preclinical studies. If I'm not mistaken, it was linked to her question.
Yes. So as I said, a donor of this kind either become a contributing partner, and then of course their funding can be there can be cash, can be a financial contribution that could be conducted as a contribution, or otherwise, if you just contribute in funding independently, that will be an independent funding, but will not count for the matching, let's say, with the GU funding.
Thank you. Now we have closed asking, can an academic partners contribute ECOP to meet the 45%? For example, the value of clinical samples / clinical data from already conducted clinical trials.
Well, this is a very good question because it touches upon a couple of things. So as I mentioned previously, every contribution, because here I understand he is asking about contributing partners. Every contribution of a contributing partner needs to be eligible in accordance with Article 6 of a grant agreement. So it needs to be a cost that is actually incurred during the project, during the duration of the project. If this is some kind of pre-existing data, this is not a cost. So no, I invite you to have a look in the guide for contributing partners where we talk a lot about this. We also had a similar question earlier today about licenses, that licenses of to IP that is already pre-existing before the project starts. So basically, if the contributing partner is not incurring a cost during the duration of the project, that is not a contribution. And for details, I'm also inviting you to follow the webinar of our colleague Gael tomorrow in the morning at I think 10:30 a.m. It's a financial webinar where Gael will be talking a lot about this. This is a very important question. It's a very important aspect.
Thank you. And now we have Roberta asking, is this call considering eligible for funding enabling technologies for clinical validation of biomarkers?
So as is also clearly stated in the topic text, indeed, enabling technology and activity to further develop such technology might be in scope of this topic if they are clearly linked to one biomarker or biomarkers. So there need to be a clear justification. If you focus your proposal only on a technology, you really need to show that there is this link to the biomarker, because the eventual scope is the clinical validation of the biomarker, which might be enabled indeed by the development of the technology if all the rest is already there.
Thank you, Elisabetta. We have Daniela asking, biomarkers already commercially available but not EVDR would be eligible for studies aimed at collecting that data for IVDR.
Okay, Latin is a little bit.
Yeah.
So the point is again up to you, really. You need to show that you will do activity that are in a scope of the topic. That means if the clinical validation, it is the activity that you intend to propose. Then it would be fine because it's in a scope. So, but that again will be really in the hands of the evaluator to decide if your proposal is fit for purpose. So again, please remember and to check carefully all the point of the topic text in the scope, in the outcome, in the impact, in order to be fully aligned.
Thank you, Elisabetta. And now we're going to take the last question from Sophie. Is there a higher likelihood of funding for proposal that involves private partners who actively contributed to shaping the core topic, or do newly formed consortia stand an equal chance of being selected?
So this is a single stage topic which has been developed by the IHI office. So it's not like it's a two-stage topic which is industry driven. So it was not developed by the industry.
Thank you, Elisabetta. I will also highly recommend you to follow us on social media to get informed on when we launch the call. I can see that my colleagues have shared the links on the chat panel, but you can also find the link on the bottom of our website in the footer. I think that we can close the webinar here. I would like to thank you, Carolina and Elisabetta, for the presentation and replying to all the questions. we had a lot of questions, which is really good. And I want to thank you all for your attention. And I hope to see you tomorrow in the financial webinar. And I wish you good luck for your proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
for
you very
attending.
much.
Please read very well the topic text, because not all details were presented. They are only the topic text. That is your Bible.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.